Hello, this is Allie with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today we are going to look at a fake growth trap that you may be falling into and how to get out of it. Alright, so in the personal development, spiritual growth, blah, 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 all these like spirituality modalities, right? We have kind of, as an aggregate, realized that one of the main points of life on earth is expansion and growth, right? And we are expanding via contrast and we're expanding via joy. And this idea has led us to teachings like follow your bliss, follow your joy, follow your passion, follow what makes you excited. And because we are dual, right, we are still in a duality mindset, because we are still in a duality consciousness, with this idea of following your bliss and following what feels good and always doing, working towards creating a life that feels good for you, it also means rejecting and going away from things that are painful, things that are uncomfortable, things that don't feel good. And if you want to disagree with me on that, just check yourself. Right? If it wasn't for the idea of following your bliss, right? In order for that to be a thing, there has to be something that you're moving away from, right? So within this idea of expansion being the name of the game, we have developed follow what feels good, go towards pleasure, go towards what my emotional guidance system is telling me is right for me, and move away from those things that don't feel good. Move away from the things that make me uncomfortable, that my emotional guidance system is telling me to move away from. Now, we need to understand, okay, that is only a piece of the puzzle. One piece, all right? Now, because we have made that the whole piece, most of us have made it that we now believe, right, because we've heard this teaching, follow your bliss, your emotional guidance system is telling you what you're supposed to be doing, so anything that feels good, go towards that, and anything that feels bad, go away from that, We are using that idea without the other main, most important component. And because of that, we are moving ourselves off track, okay? So I'll explain what the other component is, but I want to first give an example, okay? So within this, when we don't have the other most important piece, which I'm going to talk about in a second, when we're just living in with just the surface level of follow my bliss, so just do what feels good and run away from what feels bad, right? What we're going to do is we're going to start to do that. So maybe we're going to say, okay, like I feel really shitty inside my body and I hate being sick and I want to move away from being sick and I want to move towards feeling good, and I'm going to get all positive thinking about it, and I'm going to like visualize myself healthy, and I'm going to start to move towards what's going to make me feel good. And you start to do that. So you make changes to your diet, you make changes to your workout program or whatever, and as you do this, you start to feel better, right? It actually improves your life. It improves how you feel. And you're like, yes, right? And this empowers you, and you start to think like, yeah, I have some control over my life. I thought that I was just like a shitty victim to my shitty body, and it turns out I'm totally not. Like I have some control, that if I, do these different habits and do these different mindsets and do these different things, I can start to feel better, right? Maybe you quit your shitty job and you start your own company, and that starts to feel really good. Or you start leaving some relationships and forming new ones, and that starts to feel really good. And you like cut some people out of your life who don't understand you, and you start to only associate with people who like totally agree with everything that you agree with, and that feels really good. And so you're making these changes and you're doing this stuff, you're following your bliss, and you're thinking like, wow, this is great, I'm a conscious creator, I'm a manifester, I can make anything that I want to have happen, and we get into this mindset, and for a little period of time it works, okay? And then you start to notice that even in your new stuff, you still feel shitty feelings, okay? So you start to notice like, okay, well, I'm still feeling dissatisfied. Even though like I've changed my diet, I've changed my lifestyle, I've changed my relationships, I've changed my job, I have a new career, maybe I moved away, I have new friends, I still feel unsatisfied, I still feel negative emotion, I still feel this stuff. And so you're going to start to, again, try and rearrange your external circumstances and say, well, there must still be something wrong here, right? Maybe we need to go to like relationship counseling because it's like my partner's fault. Or maybe it's like my job isn't quite right. Maybe I need to change it again. Or maybe my diet isn't quite right and I need to tweak it. And maybe it's like, right? So you start to get a little bit more subtle with your stuff, right? So like maybe you made all these big sweeping diet changes and that felt good, but then now you're still not quite right. So then you start to get like nitpicky with it. Well, maybe I should cut out this food, or maybe I should try this food, and you start to just get really, really like narrowed in, right? And eventually you start to notice that even that doesn't work. And then you start to like run out of changes you can make. You see? Like you start to like run out of countries to travel to. You start to run out of changes to make to your diet. You start to run out of changes to make to your business. You start to run out of things to change. And then what happens, and this is a sneaky thing, so I want you to really look at your life and look at yourself and see if this is something that has happened to you. You still feel that discomfort. You still feel those negative emotions. You still feel that dissatisfaction. You run out of things to fix and change and you're out of reality, right? You quit, you get to a place where you think, well, it's my job, but there's nothing I can do about it. Well, it's my relationship, but there's nothing I can do about it. It's his fault. He won't change, or she won't change. Or I can't leave my job because then I won't have money. Or like there's always something that's going to stop you from doing the next thing that you know. There's a part of you that knows that you need to take this next step. You're going to not do that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to sabotage the progress that you've made. Okay? So then you're going to go back on your diet. You're going to like totally go back to what you used to be doing. Or like just slowly start to let some things in here, until all of a sudden you're like totally out of whack. Right? Or you like are going to like slowly start to like sabotage your business because you're not as passionate about it, you're not as excited about it anymore, you don't have that zest, you've got all these negative emotions, and it starts to kind of degrade. Your relationship starts to kind of degrade. And then, or maybe you're like with all these people who like totally agree with you and all that stuff, but then it kind of starts to fall apart. You go back on the progress that you've made, okay? And then from there, you're going to feel really shitty, right? You're going to really feel like, oh man, I've like gained all this weight, or my business sucks again, or you feel like you have gone back to where you used to be. And then you're going to be like, don't worry, I can just go back on the diet. I can just revamp my business like I was doing before. I can just go back to doing what I was doing in my relationships the last time I felt like shit and then I changed it. So what you're going to do is you're going to literally re-progress to what you've already done, right? You're going to come back to what was feeling good the last time, right? And think, all right, I did it. Right? I got back to it. I got back on it, but now it feels so good. This is growth. Right? Because I moved away from that. I was feeling so shitty because I had sabotaged myself, gone backwards, and again, like I'm going to say, you're always going to think there was some external circumstance that caused the sabotage. You're never going to think that it was you that sabotaged yourself. This is the tricky thing. You're always going to be like, well, no, I had to go back and visit family, and that's why I fell off my thing. Well, no, like the economy didn't do well, and that's why my business crumbled and I had to like stop doing what I was doing. It's always going to be something that you think you can blame on somebody else or something else, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to want to rearrange your circumstances again, right? To go back to what you were doing before, and you're going to trick yourself into thinking, all right, good, I progressed again. Okay, what actually happened there is you missed the part that is the other purpose of life, besides expansion, is awareness and learning about ourselves and learning who and what we are and what we are not. So this is the huge, most important thing to understand. As you get on your personal growth and personal development path, yes, changing your external circumstances, making different choices, making different actions is going to be a part of it. But if you actually want to be conscious of this, and you want to not be on this thing where you just get into this rhythm of going towards pleasure and going away from pain, which eventually is going to hit a ceiling, because here's the thing, the ceiling is there are things inside of you that are causing you pain. There are things inside of you that are causing you pain. It is not your external circumstance that is causing you pain, Okay? So, when you first get into personal development work and you first get into whatever, you are going to be convinced that if I just had more money, I'd feel better. If I just had more cash, I'd feel better. If I just had a better job, I'd feel better. If I just had a better body, I'd feel better. If I just wasn't sick, I'd feel better. If I just had better relationships, I'd feel better. And because I want to move towards my bliss, I'm going to do that. And you will do it. And you will make these changes, and you will sort of feel better. And so it gives you this placebo effect that you've done the work you needed to do. But the real truth is that there is a reason that you were doing those old behaviors to begin with. There's a reason your life was the way that it was. And it was because of foundational belief systems you have about yourself and about the world that are out of alignment with the truth. You do not fully, truly know yourself. The only reason that you ever got sick in the first place is because you do not truly know yourself. The experience of sickness, so again, don't take this as blame. This is not your fault. The journey of sickness is what it is. Sometimes we need to go down that journey to discover ourselves, okay? So it's not your fault. We came here to discover ourselves. We came here to experience circumstances that feel contrasting because they are there. They are designed. The whole point is to drive us in to say, okay, what's going on here? So remember, you need to understand all of your external circumstances. Everything that's going on in your body, everything that's going on in your relationships, everything that's going on in your job, everything that you see and perceive in your reality is coming from inside. It is a reflection. So it's never the external circumstance that is causing you to feel how you feel. So this is what we need to understand. Yes, you can make changes. Yes, you can change your external circumstance, but if you're doing it only from a place of get away from my pain and move towards my pleasure, but you don't understand what your pain is, you don't even understand what your pleasure is, you don't know why you want more money, you don't know why you want a better body, you don't know why you want a better job, you don't really know that. All you think is that it's going to make me happier, okay? It's going to make me more blissful. Why? You don't know that. And so you're just going to keep moving from a slightly unconscious place. It's a little bit more conscious than other people, right? It's slightly more conscious than the people who think I have no control over anything. My life, I am just a victim to my life, and I just have to take whatever is here, and it has nothing to do with me, and I can't do anything about it. For you to say, okay, well, I have some conscious control over it, I can change my diet, I can change my workout, I can da-da-da-da, that's slightly more conscious, for sure. But, again, there's a ceiling there, because you're not becoming fully conscious. So what you actually want to do is you want to notice all those feelings inside of you. That discomfort, that discontent, that unease, dis-ease. I don't want this. And then you're going to notice that you're going to want to go out and fix and change your external reality. And you may have done it and then regressed for some reason that you think is out of your control, and regressed and then done it again, and then you regress and then do it again, and you're going to see that there's a ceiling, right? You're not growing anymore. You're just going from one extreme to the other, where you sabotage and then go back to where you were, and then sabotage and then go back to where you were, and sabotage and go back to where you were. There's no more growth happening, okay? Because now you are being called to go deeper. Now you are being called to understand it's not just about expansion through move away from what I don't want and move towards what I do want. It is, I need to become self-aware. My external circumstances are not why I feel how I feel. What's happening on the outside is not the reason. What's happening on the outside is the reflection of what's going on within me. So this is when you start to say, I am not going to be clever anymore and try and change my external reality in order to make myself feel like I have some power and I can move towards my bliss. Now it's time to start to take responsibility and say, why do I feel like shit? What do I think the money is going to give me? Why do I think I need money in order to be happy? What is happiness to me? Why do I have these uncomfortable feelings? Where are they actually coming from? Where are they actually stemming from? What are they actually trying to tell me? Okay? Because here's the thing. If you rely on creating a reality around you that is exactly how you need it to be in order for you to be happy, you're never going to be happy. Because your external reality is never going to be fully and completely under your control. you're gonna have to go back to see your family sometimes. And if that means you fall off the plan, your eating plan, like, you're screwed, right? If you need your world to be exactly this one way in order for you to continue to feel how you want to feel, that is not empowerment. If you need, right? If you need anything outside of you to be a different way in order for you to feel good, you are not in control. You are not in power. You are not sovereign. You are not taking responsibility for yourself. You are now a victim. And there's only so much that you can control. And like I say, there's always going to be circumstances that pop up that are out of your little bubble of what makes you happy, and therefore it's going to throw you off balance if you don't know yourself. Okay? Now, when you've actually made real growth, when you've actually made real change, you can go visit your family and not fall off your diet. As in, not fall off the eating program that you know works for you. Like, to literally have no problem sticking to what you know works for you. It will be a non-issue. You can go back to your family, and they can still be communicating how they communicate, and they can still be relating how they relate, and they can be totally rejecting you and thinking you're a ridiculous person, and you can stay in your center, and you can stay totally happy and totally peaceful, and actually not even cause a whole ruckus when you go there, because you're just living in your truth, because you know yourself. Okay? Because you have gone inside and you have dealt with the inner turmoil. Because that's the thing. If you cause crazy destruction around you all the time, if every time you have to leave your little bubble, you fall apart, if you are ping-ponging between self-sabotage and success, self-sabotage and success, self-sabotage and success, you need to stop moving. You need to get still, you need to go inside, and you need to figure out what's actually going on. You need to realize, at the end of the day, your dissatisfaction, your dis-ease, your displeasure is on the inside. You need to become aware of yourself. You need to spend time in loving presence with those feelings. Stop rearranging your external reality. Okay? Stop thinking you're going to be able to fix it by changing the outside. What's going to happen is you're going to go inside, you're going to spend time with these uncomfortable feelings, and you're not going to do anything about it. You're not going to move. You're not going to change stuff. You're not going to blame it on your husband. You're not going to blame it on your diet. You're not going to blame it on your body. You're not going to blame it on this. You're saying, why is it this way? What inside of me is creating this? What inside of me is creating my perception of what I'm seeing? And then on the other side, okay, here's the big, most important thing. On the other side, circumstances can be what they are. You will be able to be with your circumstances, the ones that you can't control, right? Your family doing what they're doing, your husband doing what he's doing, your business going up and down sometimes, and you will be able to stay feeling how you want to feel. Centered, calm, happy, whatever that is, because you have dealt with the inner turmoil. You won't need to control your external circumstances in order to stay in your place of goodness. And then you will be able to take inspired action. And inspired action is not moving towards what is pleasurable or moving away from what is painful. Inspired action sometimes says, I'm going to go directly into that painful thing because I know that's the next thing for my expansion. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes it's not about going towards only pleasure and away from pain. Sometimes going into the pain is the exact thing you need to do, right? And you will know that when you know yourself. And when you don't know yourself, you will always avoid the painful situations that are actually there to grow you. Okay? Stop rearranging the external circumstances. Stop thinking that when you make changes on the outside, you've done something. You haven't unless it's come from an inspired action. And you'll know it's an inspired action because it won't be a change you're making to make yourself feel better. It'll be you already feel better, and that made you just be naturally doing this new thing. You see what I'm saying here? The change won't make you feel better. You will already feel better, and then you'll just make choices from that new, better feeling place. Totally different. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. Like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. I'll do a follow-up on this if you guys have questions, so leave me questions. And I will see you in the next video. All right? Talk to you later. Mwah.